So then you're back on yours. Okay, okay. Hey everybody, it's now 6 o'clock, and that, oh, my hair. Oh my goodness, I'm a mess. It's now
You're
6 o'clock, and
sitting
you're
in the
coming
right
in.
spot.
There we go. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful.
Fantastic.
It's 6 o'clock on Saturday night, and Lorraine and I are van camping this weekend, but we wanted to try this anyway, and hopefully it works. We did a little bit of a test run just earlier, and it worked fairly well, a little bit jerky, so hopefully it doesn't get any worse than it was. But on Saturday nights, we like to talk a little bit of hot milk. We'd like to talk Camino. So you all know that we were privileged to walk the Camino. In our first time was in the fall of 2014, Camino Frances, and then again in 2017, the same one, and then in 2018, the Portuguese from Porto up the coast to the city of Santiago once again. And we love it. We feel that we are addicted. I'm going to put your picture on here in just a minute, so you need to have something to say as kind of a warm up. Here we come, Lorraine, full screen. How's that?
This was totally. I didn't know I was supposed to do anything. What
Absolutely.
am I supposed to do?
You're just a little introduction to our Caminos and how much we love them.
We love the Caminos. What more can I say?
All right, so this is kind of a meme that we created after our first one. This picture was taken on September 27th, 2014, between Foncebadon and Arecibo. It's a picture of Lorraine walking across the mountain ridge, and a very apropos statement, motto: when you've walked as far as you can, take another step. So tonight, we're going to talk about week number 2, which would be Sunday, August the 31st to Saturday, September the 7th, 2014. I think I've got this right. I think I'm talking about what I think I'm talking about. We walk on that time from Estella, Spain to Azofra, Spain, approximately 120 kilometers in those days. Steps up, 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 up. And the large church in Estella. Sunday morning, 8:15, walking past. A little bit of awkwardness here because we can't hear what's going on when we play the videos. But I played that one. This is leaving the city of Estella in the morning. We didn't have to walk up those steps. But one of the things that we noticed is that on a very, very regular basis, the day either ended or began, and sometimes in the middle, and sometimes all three, with what we would call significant steps or inclines. You like those?
Oh yeah, that's a lot of steps. And I think on Sundays when people go to Mass, only the healthy go to Mass in a church such as that.
That's true. That's true. We often remarked at the end of the day that Spain missed many good spots for zip lines because, at the end of the day, basically a day was set up that we'd get up in the morning, just about as the sun was coming up. What would we do next? Get ready to go. Get dressed. Go see Minerva. Here's a little story about Minerva. I don't know if this happens to you or not, but when we get up in the morning, we go to the washroom, we go out and get dressed and all that stuff, and then just before we left, we both have to go back to the washroom. And I'd say, we're going to see Minerva. And she'd say, who's Minerva? And I'd say, Minerva Spee. Minerva Spee. You remember? You remember Minerva Spee? Anyway, there was nothing to it. Little tinkle tinkle. we
always went right before we left.
Every day before we left, we go.
Didn't know when you'd
see
another washroom, so you went when you could.
Walk for a couple of hours and stop for
coffee con leche,
and a breakfast. Walk for a couple of hours, stop for lunch. Sometimes that would be the end, but it would usually walk for another couple of hours, stop for an albergue or a hostel,
do our laundry and all that type of stuff. But when you're sitting here talking about it, it doesn't really sound like too much. Walk for a couple of hours and stop. Walk for a couple of hours
That's
and stop.
basically what the Camino is. We made one mistake that we did not repeat. We stopped one day and ate a fairly large lunch.
Oh, yeah.
We never did it twice. It was awful. We couldn't get back out there to walk.
Yeah, it was just, I remember that.
The big meal had to come at the end of the day.
So the point of this was at the end of those days when you're already tired. I think last week we told you that we often felt that no matter how far you walked, you chose to walk, it was at least 2 kilometers too much. If you walked 28, you should have stopped at 25. If you walked 12, you should have stopped at 10. It just seemed that your body knew when you were planning on stopping and rebelled about 2 kilometers ahead of time. And we often thought at the end of those days, a descent, which was just as hard as an ascent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And often at the end of the day, a steep descent or a steep ascent, and they were equally hard. So I'm not sure what this next screen's going to do. Let's see.
I thought that one was gone.
Yeah, this one is gone. We told you the story a couple of weeks ago about Ron from Toronto. We'd walked. Well, yeah, we'll just skip him. We'll skip him, and I'll put a link in the comment section below how you can find the story that I told about meeting Ron from Toronto, because it was quite a miraculous, or quite an intriguing story, I should say.
Imagine coming up the top of a mountain in Spain to a little place called, what was it called, Lorraine? Something. It means the major city.
Villa Mayor de Montjardin.
Villa Mayor de Montjardin, which I think means major city on the top of the hill. And listen carefully.
We thought this was rather interesting. We had walked quite a long, well, only 8 kilometers at this time, but it was largely uphill into the little village of Villa Mayor de Jardin.
New world.
And Michael Bublé was singing for us right there.
Okay,
and,
goodbye,
we knew that he was
Michael Bublé.
Canadian. We just figured that someone
had
had seen a couple of Canadian flags coming up the hill, and we're playing that for us. And Lorraine, as you could see there, was kind of in a dancing mood at that time. We did stop there for a little bit of a coffee, but very quickly that day changed. I remember Lorraine's dance step not too long ago. You remember how far it was after we left that? A gentle walk, a very gentle downhill on this day, and then across the plains from Villa Mayor de Jardin to Los Arcos. But it got hot. It was about 25 degrees when Lorraine was doing her little dance for me on top of the hill there. And by the end of the day, I'm going to show you a video in just a minute. You can see how hot she is, and I mean hot. I don't mean hot in a romantic way either. She was exhausted, and it was about 32 degrees when I showed you that. By the time we reached our destination on that day, it was very close to 38 degrees, and we felt that was the only day we really felt we had got caught. We had got caught out, right? You agree with me?
I agree.
Here, I'm doing most of the talking here tonight. This is Lorraine and I talk Camino. Here she is.
It's now about 2
Very
o'clock.
gentle incline.
Or maybe a little bit later.
Walking
Sunday afternoon.
dead.
Fields are still undulating. They've undulated
Watch
so
her
much
now.
that the temperature has gone from about
Look out
25
when I turn back on her. Look
to
how
I'm
hot she
guessing
is.
about 32. That'd be a good summary. Like an ice pack? Like an ice pack. All right, well, let's walk this next hour
She would like an ice
and get an
pack.
ice pack.
And I'm not
Let me go
sure
on a
if she
little bit
wanted
further
that
up
ice
the
pack
mountains
to
off
put
the
on her
distance
head or
there.
to throw at me right about that time. But yeah, the first couple of weeks. Talk about the heat a little bit there in those first couple of weeks.
It was very hot, very humid. We were just drenched with perspiration by the end of the day. Didn't need to wash our clothes; they were already wet.
Oh, every day. I mean, within 15 minutes, right? I mean,
Right.
she often would start out with a long sleeve shirt on because it felt chilly when she stepped out of the albergue. But within 15 minutes, that was swept through, and
During this week was one of my worst albergue experiences because of the heat. It was a small albergue, but there was probably 15 beds upstairs.
yeah, it was pretty crowded.
It was
a
crowded.
private one.
It was
Oh, sorry, but a guy who had walked the Camino himself and then came home, and thought he wanted to help Camino, so he started an extra albergue.
So when just the routine, we should have known when every time somebody came out of the bathroom, he was there flipping off light switches. So he was trying to be very frugal and not waste any electricity. So it was super, super hot. I'm on the top bunk. I always took the top bunk.
Can I jump in just a minute because what you in Spain, they're very, very conscious of electricity. So all of the lights are on timers or motion detectors and stuff like that. This guy probably couldn't afford the motion detector.
So we get into bed, and I'm so relieved that on my top bunk, if I lay at the very, very edge of the bed, there's a fan on the other side of the room, and it's rotating. And every once in a while, it rotates, and I feel a breeze. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to make it through the night. I won't die. I've got this little breeze. About half hour after everything was quiet, the hospitalero came in and shut off that fan. I thought I was going to die.
Not her best experience. She actually wrote me an email in the middle of the night, said, because she knows that I'm often awake in the middle of the night and I check stuff if I am. Wrote me an email in the middle of the night because she didn't want to wake everybody else up trying to wake me up. So she sent me an email in the middle of the night saying, Thurland Brown, if you're awake, could you please find a way to turn that heat or that fan back on for me? But I never got the email in the middle of the night. Churches
were numerous. The whole point of the Camino de Santiago is it's a religious pilgrimage that hundreds and hundreds of years ago, Christians walked to Santiago. So the places that they went to were the churches. So the Camino is purposely goes by many, many churches, because back then it was the people at the churches that provided provisions and a place for the pilgrims to stay as they were doing their pilgrimage. So we saw many, many churches, and we didn't stop to see them all because it would have slowed us down immensely, and we were already slow. But as you could see in that one, it was a gorgeous church, so much ornamentation. It's beautiful, but just so, I don't know what the word is, magnificent.
Ostentatious comes to my mind as overkill. And this is by no means the most ornate of them. Probably one of the most ornate would be actually just one night after. No, not one night after this. Several nights after this, in a little tiny town called Navarette, and it is known for its cathedral. There's just gold everywhere. So yeah, this was Los Arcos. We actually had to hurry our evening meal in Los Arcos because we wanted to go to church that evening and thought we had time to eat our meal. They hurried our dessert out to us. We chose a cone or a bar of ice cream so we could take it with us and rush into church because we wanted to go that night. The major thing about week number 2 is that this is the week that Lorraine's I don't know, I hope that's looking better for you than it is for me. This is the week that Lorraine's leg troubles really started. She injured herself back on day number 3, but it didn't really affect her until the second week, the end of the
Being naturally born clumsy, I missed a step, just a simple step, going up onto the platform, going in to get something to eat, and got the front of my shin really, really hard. And it cut it a little bit, but basically the whole leg swelled up, and I couldn't walk. I couldn't let the tongue of my boot touch my leg, which meant I had to loosen my boot way up, which meant I was going to get blisters on that foot if I didn't walk very specially, which meant I was getting my whole body out of shape because I just wasn't walking right. So it started out on day 3, but it just continued to get worse and worse and worse, and the swelling just stayed for days.
Yeah, and not that was the one injury, and then the tractor came along
Oh, yeah.
one day and pushed her. Kind of, it didn't push her. I shouldn't say that, but the tractor came along on the very narrow part of the pathway, and she had to get off of the pathway and kind of lean back against a hill, an incline, a grassy hill, and she got a thorn in her foot, the side of her foot at the same time, and that kind of the two of those together just kind of did her in. So week number 2 was a difficult week. I call these the backpack mule. That was me. I was the backpack mule. Who's going to tell me a story about the Spanish angel?
Go ahead.
Won't make it too long tonight, so you better tell it.
This guy in the red van, we came along, found him in the middle of nowhere, and he saw that Thurland was carrying 2 backpacks and I was hobbling along, and so he motioned. He's Spanish, he doesn't speak English, so he motioned for me to sit down, and he understood that I had a sore leg, so he went into action. He helped me take my boots off, and he went and he got some spray of some sort, and he was talking, and I think I heard the word aloe, so I don't know exactly what was in the spray, but anyway, he sprayed it on my leg and massaged my feet a little bit, and it was such a humbling experience to have this total stranger so willing to take care of my dirty, smelly.
Without question.
And
without charge.
The only reason he was there is to serve the pilgrims, and it was a very humbling thing for me. I called him my Spanish angel because we still had a couple of hours to walk after that, and whatever he put on it made a huge difference. And mind you, Thurland still carried the backpacks, I think, but I was able to walk a little bit better the last 2 hours that day.
So to go back up to this one, in case you can see it, it was the day before the Spanish angel, and this was the day that we kind of recognized that her leg was starting to go bad on her. So we took instead of going in an albergue or a hostel, we took a private hotel that night. It was a swimming pool. On my screen, that swimming pool was showing up as a blur. I don't know, it may be coming through on yours, but we tried to nip this thing in the bud, and it seemed to work because the next day you were feeling better, and you walked with me carrying your pack, but you still walked, and we actually walked maybe too far that next day.
Good man's carrying my backpack for me because I'm a little bit lame today. Beautiful walk beside some trees.
We actually practiced that at home out on Gypsy Lane. We both practiced carrying each other's bags, right? And found out that it was actually fairly comfortable to carry over the long haul. It loses its comfort pretty quickly because it was about between us, I think we had 45 pounds. So it was. He
was my backpack cookie.
Backpack cookie, Oreo cookie.
He was the filling in the
sandwich. Sandwich. That day I carried her bag. We walked actually 24 kilometers that day because we started out feeling good. And again, we walked 8 kilometers, and then it was 13 kilometers to the next town, and we kind of assessed it, and everybody was feeling good. She thought she could go on, and that was a mistake. But I carried her bag 8 kilometers that day. Actually got in trouble with the other 8 hours. I mean. Actually got in trouble with the other men that day because we passed. Actually, yeah, with me carrying her stuff, we were able to pass a few people, or they passed us. I forget exactly.
But we could see them motioning as if to say, "Look, he's carrying her backpack.
How come you're not carrying mine?" So I didn't gain many friends that night, except Lorraine became my friend. Here's the next one of she's trying to decide which one is going to be her jackass.
Oh, my friend. Sometimes Lorraine has a difficulty
figuring out which jackass is her walking partner. Today it'll be the one with 2 legs. So again, I'm not sure how that's coming through on yours. On ours, it's blurry, so maybe we're seeing the downfall of trying to do this off of a hotspot instead of a good Wi-Fi. But we'll see. Anyway, just one more thing. So that was the week. That was the week that her legs started bothering her. But that doesn't mean that it was all bad either, right? You can start to talk a little bit about, not there, right here. This is Ventrosa.
This is where we met some lifelong friends. The two on the right-hand side are Spanish people that we only met them on the Camino for a week, and they knew we were flying out of Barcelona, and they said, well, when you come to Barcelona, come and visit us. Come stay in my mother's house. And so we weren't sure, like, that it would be weeks before we were done. They were only staying on the Camino for a week. So it ended up that we did stay on the Mediterranean Sea in San Filio de Guixo?
Yes, it is, yes.
And
north of Barcelona, about 60 kilometers.
We had a wonderful time there, and we still are in contact with them. Facebook is amazing because it will translate for us, so we keep in contact with them.
And they'll watch this video and see their pictures. Thank you, Xavi and Carmen.
Right.
All right, and the other people in that picture, by the way, were Canadians, and we had completely lost touch with them until about 6 weeks ago. One of our problems is we love the Camino so much, we sit down in the evening and watch YouTube videos, just random YouTube videos, and I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, I know this guy. And so I called Lorraine over, and she said, I don't recognize him at all, but that woman looks like the woman we met in Ventrosa when we met Xavi and Carmen. And so I went looking, and sure enough, that was, I forget their names. Anyway, we've reconnected with them within the past few weeks.
This picture is me taking any chance I can get to put cold water on my leg to help with the swelling.
Yeah, the point of this part is even with the great pain that she was going through in her leg, it was still a great experience. And the 3 pictures besides the one where the group shot is us at a wonderful albergue in Ventrosa. Very beautiful little gardens inside and out, and just a very beautiful spot. And we had a great night there, and met our new friends there as well. So we often thought at the end that how could 48 days of pain become one great experience, but
enough that we wanted to go back, and we did go back 2 more times.
Yeah, and would love to be able to be there again. Well, just one more little thing as we close tonight. People often talk about the sleeping arrangement, and they can vary from good to bad, from many people to very few people. So this is a good one. This was in the little town of Azofra, and the municipal albergue, or the municipal hostel in Azofra, had 2 beds in every room. So no special treatment for us tonight, just 2 beds. Didn't have any electricity and electrical outlets in the room. We had to charge our stuff out in the hallway. But that was on a Friday night in Azofra, and was a wonderful night. And here's the very next night in Santa Domingo, in a parochial albergue, or an albergue run by a church or some nuns. And describe this one to them.
This room had, as you can see, 5 beds, and the only place they had to put their baggage and move around to get dressed or whatever is that little space in the left-hand bottom corner, which is about the size of 1 more bed.
Yeah, I mean, why waste the space? They could have had 6 people sleeping in that room. This was by far the most crowded spot. That we were not in this particular room. We were very next door to this room, but ours was much like this. Take that 5th bed out of there. and make the room that much smaller. So our room had room for 4 beds, and it only had 3 beds in it. And we thought we scored that night because we thought that they put us in by ourselves and weren't going to put anybody else in there with us. But it wasn't long before our roommate came, and it was a lady of let's just say about this lady. She knew how to snore, right? She knew how to snore.
Probably the worst I've ever heard.
Ever. I've only ever heard one person snore any worse than that, and that was at a hunting camp that I was at. And both instances, the hunting camp and the lady in this albergue in Santo Domingo, they went to sleep early, right? And we got to bed, and she went to bed at basically the same time, but she went to sleep just like that, and it wasn't 30 seconds. There was not much sleeping in the other 2 beds in those in that place that night, right?
Right.
Any other memories of week number 2?
Fish.
Fish.
I had ordered fish because my experience with fish in Spain was amazing. I had the most fantastic fish. The first night that we were in
trout.
Roncesvalles. And so after that, I was like, well, if fish is so good over here, I'm going to try it again. But my next time, I got in my memories of Facebook, it showed up today. And it was a complete fish, head and all, head, tail. I don't eat things that look at me on my plate.
I was going to say, Lorraine doesn't like it when her food looks back at you. Anyway, that's enough for tonight. We've been 26 minutes. We're trying to keep these things around 20 to 25 minutes, so we almost did that tonight. Thanks for watching again. If you have any questions about Camino, feel free to shoot them off to either Lorraine or I, and we'll address those questions for you next Saturday night when we talk again. But anyway, when you've walked as far as you can, take another step, and if you do that often enough, you'll get to the end of your journey. Right?
That's right.
Thanks for watching. God bless.
Buen Camino.
Buen Camino.